It is Tuesday, April 19th, 7 p.m. here in Washington, D.C., and I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital, WCUA's only baseball-centric talk show. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, joined here by my co-host, Robbie Cruz, and James Higgins will be joining us once again a little bit later in the program, and we will be breaking down the latest in the baseball world, as we always do. But first, thank you all so much for tuning in. As I said, we're live every Tuesday right here on WCUA Radio at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And our shows are posted on YouTube in podcast form the day after. So go ahead, follow us on Instagram at NatPastimeCap is the account to get all the updates on when those go live and other updates on the show as well. That's at NatPastimeCap. And, of course, if you want to call in tonight and share anything baseball-related with us, talk about anything baseball-related, we'd love to have you. That number's 202-319-5106, 202-319-5106. So, Robbie, another week into the baseball season here. A lot of exciting stuff going on. We had our first Player of the Week awards that were given out, and I think the best way to start the show is to talk about one of them in particular, and that, of course, is the rookie in Chicago who's really just been tearing the cover off the ball to start his career, Seiya Suzuki.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. We covered Seiya Suzuki very briefly last week, but Seiya Suzuki has been absolutely great for the Chicago Cubs so far. I mean, he's been doing great offensively, defensively. He's hitting a lot of home runs. He's hitting with runners in scoring position. The Chicago Cubs are one of the best. They have one of the best team batting averages in baseball right now, and it all starts with Seiya Suzuki. Seiya Suzuki has been great so far this year in Chicago. I don't know if he's going to keep it up so far, Andrew, but he's been doing really well.
Yeah, he's been doing fantastic. I mean, a 1493 OPS. I think he has, 4 or 5 home runs now. I mean,
yeah,
he's been tearing the cover off the ball. A well-deserved Player of the Week award for him. The other one then, of course, Jose Ramirez, who we did talk about in last week's program after he got his extension. And, yeah, that's looking like a pretty good extension so far for the Guardians.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously the first year of that big 6-year, I believe it was, contract extension.
Indeed, yeah.
Right now he's hitting .457 with the Cleveland Guardians. My phone's not loading, so I don't have the rest of the statistics off the top of my head. But Ramirez has been a great leader. Okay, so he's got 3 home runs and 15 RBIs already. Mm-hmm. I think that's more runs than the Yankees have scored all year, for crying out loud. But regardless, though, Jose Ramirez has been absolutely great this season for the Cleveland Guardians. They've needed this. He's played great defense. He's been hitting with runners in scoring position. He hits timely well. His OPS is 1.386, which is absolutely incredible. This guy just keeps raking. I mean, year after year, the guy just does not stop hitting. I mean, it's so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week. It's a guy who really is one of the top 10 players of the game, but really isn't treated like one for some reason. And, maybe this is the year where he finally shows the world and kind of breaks out. And I hate saying that because he already has broken out, but I mean, like, break out in the aspect of people realizing just how good this guy is.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of those guys who I think gets underappreciated. There are a lot of guys in baseball who, in my opinion, are really underappreciated, and Jose Ramirez is definitely one of those guys. You look at guys like Brian Reynolds. You look at guys like Ketel Marte, definitely the lower-tier guys. We don't think of them as your superstars in baseball, but you think of them as a star. I think Jose Ramirez could be, like, people think of him in that category, but in my opinion, Jose Ramirez is a superstar. I don't know if you can build a World Series team around him because the Guardians haven't made a deep playoff push with him yet, but since he's been effective, and I think 2016 is when he really started to hit well, the Guardians have just been they've been making the playoffs every year, and they've been doing really big things. So Jose Ramirez is definitely a piece that you can have on a good playoff team.
Yeah, 2016 is when he kind of really broke out. A .312 average that year, .363 on base, slugged .462 to go along with playing a lot of positions, hitting 11 home runs, driving in 76 on that team that, if you remember, of course, did make it to the World Series and lost in 7 games to the Cubs, a very good Indians team at the time. And from there, just kind of went off. 29 home runs the following year, 39 the next, and then 36 last year as well. I mean, he's been one of the more consistent players in baseball, and just overall a guy that I think is very underappreciated. Maybe this is the year where he finally just goes absolutely insane, and we'll have to appreciate him.
Yeah, and it's interesting when talking about Jose Ramirez because every single year he's only improved. When he was younger, the thing he was well known for was his ability to play multiple positions and play solid defense. Then what does he do? He develops a solid bat. He becomes a good guy who can hit for average. Then as he gets older, he develops power. So he's a guy who plays multiple positions, plays Gold Glove defense, he hits for average, and now he hits for power. And over the past few years, he's cut down on strikeouts. He's gotten on base at a higher rate. I mean, this guy is consistently improving, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so high on him. him.
Yeah, and a switch hitter on top of all of that as well. Just an unbelievable talent in Cleveland. And, hopefully with him and Bieber and a couple other good pieces that they can maybe make a couple signings this offseason and try to go for something, because that is by no means a decided division. As good as the White Sox are, they're having their struggles with injuries. And, I'm not going to say the Guardians are going to win the division this year, but, the next couple of years, it's not a solidified place. It's not like it's a division where it has one clear winner.
Absolutely. And also you look at the Minnesota Twins, and they haven't been that great so far this year. You look at guys like Carlos Correa has really underperformed. Gio Urshela as a whole this season, he hasn't been great. Obviously, Gary Sanchez hasn't been great. So, and then you got the Byron Buxton injury. So the Minnesota Twins definitely haven't been as productive and effective as people would have thought. But I think we're going to get into this later on in the show. But I really don't think that the month of April should determine what we think of a team's season. But we'll get into that later in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I want to discuss in regards, of course, to two specific teams. But before we do that, Robbie, why don't we pay tribute real quick to two guys who called it a career this week? Two guys who had some phenomenal careers. Firstly, lefty specialist Tony Watson announced his retirement earlier this week. And, if you're not familiar with Tony Watson, this guy put in a lot of work as a lefty specialist with a lot of different teams. Most recently with the Angels, had a pretty good season for them. But this is a guy who has a career 2.9 ERA, 47-29 record. He had multiple years with an ERA under 3, multiple under 2 as well.
Yeah.
And of course, the highlight came in 2014. With the Pirates, he was part of a bullpen with him, Joel Hanrahan, and Jason Grilli. That was just unhittable. He had a 1.63 ERA that year, led the league in games appeared in for pitchers, and just held hitters to a ridiculously low opposing batting average. So hats off to Tony Watson for a great career.
Yeah, absolutely. Watson was definitely another one of those guys who I think was really underappreciated. And I think it's because he was always seen as a guy who was a solid setup man. Really didn't get that many opportunities to close throughout his career, but there were moments where he did. You look at when the Pirates were trading away Mark Melancon to the Nationals. Watson got 10 saves that season. When the Pirates traded Joel Hanrahan to, I think it was the Red Sox, maybe. I don't remember who it was. Watson got some opportunities to close games there. Tony Watson has been an effective reliever throughout his entire career. Even the last chance he got with the San Francisco Giants, he got traded there from the Angels and had a 2.96 ERA at age 36. Clearly, teams didn't think that he was an effective reliever anymore, and that's probably why he retired. I'm guessing he just didn't have much interest, and he'd rather just retire than sign a minor league deal with the team. But at the end of the day, he was also a really good guy, too. I've heard nothing but great things about Tony Watson. So hats off to Tony Watson. Really great career. By no means is he going to come anywhere near the Hall of Fame, but he's made his money. He's been a pretty good name, and overall, he was just a really effective reliever for sure.
Yeah, a great career, as Robbie said, and a great guy as well. And then, of course, the other guy, a little bit more high profile, of course, and that is Cubs icon, if you will, Jake Arrieta.
Phillies icon.
We're not going to use that word when we're describing his career with the Philadelphia Phillies, but actually, I'm sorry, Robbie, I think you mean Orioles icon.
Yeah.
Jake Arrieta, yeah. So Arrieta calls it a career after last year trying to hang on. He signed that deal with the Cubs to begin the year. He didn't make it to the trade deadline. He was cut because of how bad he was. He had an ERA around 7. The Padres, in a feeble attempt to stay relevant, picked him up. He was even worse with them. And it just seems like the point where if you're Jake Arrieta, just go home and spend time with your family. There's no reason to go for it.
I didn't even think he was going to pitch last season because when his time was up with the Phillies, he was so bad. His ERA was 5.08 with the Phillies that last year, and his velocity just completely diminished. His curveball had just had no effect anymore, and there was just not much to really like about Jake Arrieta as a whole as a pitcher. So I was surprised about it, but throughout his career, though, Jake Arrieta was absolutely filthy. Obviously, we look at the 2015 Cy Young Award, even though he didn't make the All-Star team that year, which I thought was kind of surprising. I remember that. Multiple-time All-Star. He's done some really big things. He even has a Silver Slugger on his resume.
How about that? Hitter.
He was.
He has a postseason home run against the Giants. I believe it was 2016, I want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think he has a no-hitter as well.
He's got 2?
Yeah, he's got 2.
Yeah.
So he's absolutely done really big things, and he was on that Cubs World Series team as well. So, heck of a career for Jake Arrieta as a whole. at the beginning of his career, it looked like he was going to be a complete bust with the Baltimore Orioles, and the Orioles gave him chance after chance after chance, and it got to the point where he just had no potential anymore, and the Orioles really did not like him anymore, so they traded him and Pedro Strop for,
right.
Do you remember who they traded him for?
Oh, man, I do not.
Scott Feldman.
Scott Feldman.
Yeah, so they trade him to the Chicago Cubs, and, he develops a filthy sinker, and he just becomes really effective, so, hat off to him. I mean, Arrieta looks like a complete bust for several years, but then what does he do when he gets traded to the Cubs? Well, he has a 3.66 ERA the first year there, then he has a 2.53 ERA, 1.77, and you see him get better and better and better year in and year out. So even though Andrew, you probably hate him, he's had a hell of a career.
No, he did. He had a fantastic career, and I mean, you just want to dial in on that 2015 season. Legitimately one of the greatest starting pitching seasons we've seen in the past 20 years. This guy was unhittable. 22-6, a 1.77 ERA. He led the league in games started. He had 4 complete games. 3 of them were shutouts. And in 229 innings, he struck out 236. And in that second half, I'm sure you remember, Robbie, he was just unhittable. He didn't make the All-Star team like you said. In the second half, he was like, he was the second coming of Cy Young. Like, you could not hit the man.
Yeah, and I think that was the year where the Cy Young War was down to him and Zach Greinke.
Yeah.
And Zach Greinke had a historic year that year as well. And the fact of the matter is that Arrieta was so good to the point where he was able to beat out Zach Greinke that year. I mean, just an incredible year. And it's a shame that we're going to remember Jake Arrieta for his bad years with the Phillies, the Padres, and, last year with the Cubs. But at the end of the day, he really had a wonderful career. I mean, he had a better career than 99% of major leaguers. So at the end of the day, if you're Jake Arrieta, you made your money, you take what you did, and overall, really great job.
Yeah, I think what you said there is true. You got to remember him for the historic stats that he put up, other than, remembering him for the time on the Phillies when he said he was going to put a dent in Todd Frazier's skull, or the time
the nude photos for the ESPN magazine.
Yeah, or that, or the whole aspect of, the biggest thing with him was, and not to complain about Jake Arrieta, because his time is done, he collected his money and he's out of Philadelphia, but this was a guy for the longest time refused to change how he pitched, which, by the way, I will say, I think that's a big reason why he's not still pitching. Jake Arrieta still had the talent, he just refused to adapt the way he pitches. He used to be able to blow the sinker by people, blow the fastball by people, 95, 96. And once he started losing velocity on that, he still pitched the same way, like his sinker was 95. You just can't do that.
Yeah, it makes me think of CC Sabathia's career.
Yeah.
CC Sabathia, and I think it was like 2016, he really lost a lot of velocity. He lost a lot of weight, and I think that led to his velocity going down. So basically, he was getting shelled for like 2 years or so, and he started to adjust, right? He developed a cutter, started using his slider more, because he realized you can't get velocity back when you're 36, 37 years old. So he develops off-speed pitches and uses them effectively. That's what Arrieta should have done. He didn't really do that, and like you said, it was a big reason why his career ended. But regardless, I don't think that we should be trashing Jake Arrieta on his retirement night.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, he will forever be remembered as an integral part of the Cubs team that broke the curse. So, and that's all that matters really to him. I mean, he's a legend in Chicago. Even though his last showing with them was not great, he always will be remembered for what he did for those, I guess it was 4 years there, and including a World Series ring.
Yeah, and he was a part of probably one of the best trades in Chicago Cubs history.
I would say so.
I mean, you literally give Scott Feldman, you get a Cy Young Award winner, and also a really effective reliever. I mean,
not
you
bad.
Take that any day of the week.
Not bad, not bad. Well, one more quick thing I want to talk about that happened this week before we get into one of the main topics regarding April baseball, as Robbie mentioned. By the way, if you want to call in about anything baseball-related, you can gladly go ahead and do that. 202-319-5106 is that number. Why don't we talk about Corey Seeger and what happened to him this week? Because up until this point, I think on documented film, there'd only been 2 cases of a player being walked intentionally with the bases loaded. That, of course, being Barry Bonds and Josh Hamilton. And Corey Seager joined that club this week.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I saw the Angels intentionally walk Corey Seager. My initial reaction was, I mean, yeah, he's swinging a really hot bat and you don't want to face him, but at the same time, why do that? I don't understand. Like, even Mike Trout was confused. They zoomed in on his face when that happened. He just looked so confused.
Yeah.
It made no sense whatsoever. So I don't understand why the Angels did that. I understand you're afraid of facing Corey Seager, but at the same time, if I'm a pitcher, I'd be kind of insulted if your manager's literally intentionally walking guy. That's his way of saying, listen, I just don't have confidence in you to get this guy out right now. I think that he'll probably hit a home run off of you or something. So, that really surprised me. I don't know.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I want to say that the last time that this happened, which was to Josh Hamilton, was Joe Maddon not also the manager?
I don't remember when Josh Hamilton got intentionally walked.
It was against the Rays, and it was in Texas, and I am pretty sure that Joe Maddon was the one who issued that as well, and he was the one who did it the other night. As the manager of the Angels now.
He's an interesting manager, very old school, and he's got like all these weird tricks up his sleeve. I
mean, hey, they won that game. So
They did.
Yeah,
I guess you got to give him credit for sure.
Yeah, by the way, speaking of Mike Trout, good to hear that it looks like he's only going to be out a few games after getting hit directly in that left hand with a pitch. Obviously, looked like it could have been a lot worse, but he said it's going to be a couple more days, and he's going to be wearing a pad on his hand now. So good that we won't be missing any more Mike Trout time, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said earlier this season, before the season started, actually, we really don't want to see Mike Trout miss another season due to injury, just because baseball really needs a guy like him. He's so exciting to watch, and we can't afford to miss him. I actually received some pretty big news, by the way.
Did you?
This has nothing to do with Corey Seeger, has nothing to do with Mike Trout,
sure,
but
it is baseball related.
It is baseball related. So, as we all know, the Toronto Blue Jays, if you're going to play in Toronto, you need to be vaccinated.
Right.
Aaron Boone said today, within the next 14 days, he expects the entire Yankees team to be vaccinated.
Wow.
So that, I think, is pretty big news in regards to the AL East, because a lot of people are saying that we're going to miss Aaron Judge, they might miss Garrett Cole, and they might miss Kyle Higashioka and one or two other pieces. So that's really interesting. That just came into my attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's been something that journalists have been spinning off as a, quote, competitive advantage for Toronto. But it's interesting. It really is interesting. And, I guess that's good news for Yankees fans. And, speaking of Yankees, why don't we talk about one of the main things we wanted to discuss tonight? And that, of course, is April baseball, as Robbie said, right? Because April baseball... it gets kind of cold sometimes. I think you'd agree with that, right?
Absolutely. It's been colder this year than in years past, I swear.
Well, just here in Washington, where we're based, I mean, it's been one of the coldest springs I can remember here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was like 39 degrees today, and it's April 19th.
Yeah, almost May. And so that kind of leads into this point here. You have two teams that we're going to talk about here. And honestly, Robbie, this is perfect that we're the two here, because the two teams that were, I'd say, out of any team in baseball that were expected to be offensive powerhouses and have, for lack of better words, crapped the bed so far, have been the Phillies and the Yankees. And how much of this, we'll start with the Yankees here. Let me ask you, how much of it is it a concern? Like, is this going to be something that really concerns you, or how much of it is just like a slow April start in cold weather?
Well, the Yankees have a multitude of issues right now when it comes to the offense. I do think that the cold weather is part of the issue. I don't think it's all of the issue, though. Now, a lot of Yankee fans are saying this team just can't hit. They're not good enough. I don't buy that. That's not true at all. This Yankee team has shown that they really can hit. Right now, they have some really bad averages on their team. Anthony Rizzo's hitting .212. Joey Gallo's hitting .133. Josh Donaldson's hitting .195. Higashioka's hitting .120. The Yankees aren't going to do this all season. That's not the kind of hitter that these guys are. So, in part, I do blame on the cold weather. They played in New York, where it was absolutely freezing, as we all know. That Red Sox series, they were off to a hot start when it was warm, but then it got colder against the Toronto Blue Jays, and that was really bad. But also in Baltimore this past weekend, I went to the game on Friday. It was freezing there. So the cold weather definitely does have an impact on what's going on, but I don't think that's the only reason why the Yankees are performing so poorly with the offensive performances. Aaron Boone needs to understand that he cannot be changing up the lineup every single day, okay? The Yankees have two issues right now. The first issue is that they don't have a leadoff hitter. Aaron Boone is always changing the lineup up, and this team right now is so poorly constructed. Mostly because, like I said, they don't have a leadoff hitter. They're really, a lot of people say that they're fast. This is not a fast team. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa just got their first stolen base of the year so far. They're really not that fast of a team. But at the end of the day, listen, We're changing the lineup up every day, which is really hard for a hitter. Believe it, I played baseball. When I was switching positions in the lineup every single day, it's hard. You go into the ballpark with a designated mentality. You're going to say, I'm going to hit it this time. I'm ready for runners in scoring position. But here, we're going all over the place. It makes no sense. Aaron Boone has got to stop doing that, okay? So that's a big reason why I think that the Yankees lineup is struggling, is because Aaron Boone's always changing the lineup up. Another reason, like I said, is it's cold, and, it's just a poorly constructed team. Like, I don't think that they know who's supposed to hit when, and I think the Phillies sort of have the same issue, Andrew. They just don't know who hits when. What they do is they bring this team of so much talent together, and they're like, you know what? We'll just throw it out there, and we'll do whatever with it. It reminds me of the Los Angeles Lakers this past season. I hate to bring basketball into this, but the Lakers, on paper, were supposed to be one of the best teams because they had so much talent, but they're thrown together onto the court, and it's a disaster. That, I think, is what the Yankees and low-key the Phillies are doing right now.
Yeah, well, something I can share sentiment with is the fact that in 11 games for the Phillies so far, there have been 11 different lineups. There has not been a single game where the lineup has been
Same thing with the Yankees.
That's what I'm saying, and this seems like something that needs to be figured out sooner rather than later. Like, these guys, like Robbie said, they have a mentality that, like, I'm going to hit third today. I'm going to hit fourth today, right? And when you come to the ballpark and you don't know if you're leading... In the case of Gene Segura, let me give you a good example of him. He's leading off tonight. He's batted as low as 8 this year. He's batted 5, 6, 7, 8, and now 1. It's like... These guys need to know where they're hitting. You can't just keep changing it up every night.
And before I let you get more onto the Phillies, I want to say this. Look at the team's best averages in baseball this year. The Rockies, the Cubs, the Guardians, and the Dodgers. Those teams don't change their lineup up every single day, okay? And the Colorado Rockies play in Colorado. It's freezing right there right now, so obviously it's tough. Chicago's been known as one of the toughest places to play in the month of April, and they're managing to hit 277 as a team right now. But what's the big difference? Those teams don't change the lineup up every single day like the Yankees and the Phillies. It's absolutely ridiculous, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the whole lineup thing, and it's just to a certain extent I gotta agree with what Robbie said. I mean, you have two teams that have massive amounts of talent and don't really know where to put people. Now, I will say, I hate to use the whole it's April, it's a 10-game stretch, it's an 11-game stretch, whatever. But truly in baseball it is. I mean, the reality is we have 150-plus games left. And once both of these teams find out not only what their lineup is, but once the guys start clicking, like the absolute superstars, like the Judges, the Stantons, right? The Harper's been not great to start off. Kyle Schwarber's been horrible.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right? Once these guys start clicking, then I think it's going to be a completely different story. Now, of course, you have to get to that point. And these are games that are going to matter late in the year that if you're just giving them away, like... These are two close divisions. I think we both agreed that these are divisions where 3 to 4 teams could be making the playoffs. In the case of the AL East, 4 teams could legitimately make the playoffs.
And that's the issue right now. So Aaron Boone likes to use this analogy. He says, oh, it's April. We're experimenting with things. We're playing with things around. Well, guess what? You had spring training to do that. And yes, you can say, oh, it's just April, like Andrew said. It's just the beginning of the year. These games don't matter. But they do. In the AL East and the NL East, those divisions are so tight and close that you need all the wins that you can get. And right now it seems like Aaron Boone hasn't really put that into his head yet. He's experimenting with things in ways that they shouldn't be experimented right now. I mean, I could go on all day about this. It's absolutely ridiculous. Look at the fact that this was one of the most frustrating things I think I've ever seen in my life. The other day, the Yankees are playing the Baltimore Orioles, okay? Jonathan Loáisiga loads the bases up. The Orioles pinch hit a third baseman for Rougned Odor. Lucas Licky, a lefty specialist, is warmed up in the bullpen. Lefties have really struggled against Lucas Licky. And what does Boone do? He leaves Loáisiga in against a lefty when Loáisiga has not pitched well against lefties. And what is Aaron Boone doing here? He's experimenting. He's testing it out. He's trying to see if Loáisiga can get a lefty out. We can't afford to experiment in the regular season, in the middle of the season. This is not appropriate. This is not the time to do it. If you really want to do it in spring training. And I understand the spring training was short this year, but come on. That's okay. That right there led the Yankees to losing the other day, and it was terrible.
Yeah, speaking of the shortened spring training, I really thought this would have a bigger effect on the pitchers of these two teams. And, I don't watch the Yankees as much, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, the pitching has not been horrible so far.
The Yankees have had the second best ERA in baseball this season.
That's what I'm saying.
And I will also say this about the Yankees, because Boy, I could go on all day about the New York Yankees. Okay, Nestor Cortez needs some recognition. Okay?
Immaculate inning.
Struck out 12 batters in 5 innings, hasn't given up a single earned run this season. And guess what? It's a shame that he can't get wins against the Baltimore Orioles because the lineup can't hit anything. Okay? So the Yankees pitching has been absolutely great. Jordan Montgomery's been solid. Jameson Taillon's been great. Obviously, like I said, Nestor Cortez. Luis Severino had a bad first start. That last start was really good. Garrett Cole's pitching against the Tigers so far. He's been all right so far. I mean, he's only thrown 1 inning, so we really can't say much. But at the end of the day, the Yankee pitching has looked great. And it's frustrating because every single year, the Yankees always seem to have a great offense, and pitching has always been a problem for this team. Now it's the complete opposite. I don't know what's going on, but the offense needs to pick it up. Aaron Boone needs to stop playing around with the lineup, and once it gets warm, I think things will get better. That's my Yankees rant, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it I can echo with watching the Philadelphia Phillies play baseball. I mean, you know, it's kind of like, hey, this is a $240 million team. We were promised to be hitting a lot of home runs. We've barely hit any home runs. Now, in the credit of the Phillies, in their struggles, they do, I'm pretty sure, as of last night, still lead the NL and maybe all of baseball with doubles. But it's just, it is mind-blowing to me, and I don't know how much of it is cold weather. I don't know how much of it is shortened spring training, how much of it is the idea that these lineups are different every night. But at a certain point, you know, they're just gonna have to pick it up. I don't know what else to say. I mean, these are teams that are constructed with a lot of money to do a lot of damage at the plate. It just hasn't been happening so far. I mean, outside of Nick Castellanos, and I'm going to be honest here, Johan Camargo, there's been basically no life from the Phillies offense. Again, a thing that has plagued the team for the last 4 years, center field. Center field is a black hole, and you know, the Phillies thought that they solved it this year when Mickey Moniak had one of the best spring trainings of anybody in Major League Baseball. He had 6 home runs, he hit like 400, and the dude breaks his hand in the final game of spring training in a meaningless Rays game. And it's like, it sucks because now you have Matt Vierling, who I enjoyed a lot last year. The guy can't hit at all this year. He has like 2 total hits on the season. Other than that, you have Simone Muzziotti. The guy's supposed to be in Double-A. He's the only other center fielder on the 40-man roster. And it's just center field again. It's another black hole, and it's so frustrating. But I hope it's the weather. We'll end it with that.
Yeah.
I do hope it's the weather.
It's cold in Philadelphia as well as it is in New York. I mean, I don't like to use the weather as an excuse because the opponents have this. They're in the same conditions, you know.
Yeah.
This should not be why we're losing. Also, the Phillies were in Miami the other day, so that was not good to lose in Miami like that.
Well, here's the thing about that. To touch on Miami quickly, the Phillies can't win a baseball game in Miami. If you look at the stats, they can. First of all, they can't beat the Marlins. They play okay against them at home, but when they're in Miami, I don't think they've won a series there in probably 5 years. They cannot play baseball in that ballpark. And it's crazy because this team is essentially completely different from 2017, 2018 now, and the team still, they come into that ballpark and they forget how to play baseball. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before. And these Marlins teams are not exactly powerhouses. I mean, you have some good starting pitching, but that lineup put at least 9 runs up against the Phillies 2 nights during that series.
Yeah, also, I don't know what was going on. I only saw 1 game in that series, but Zach Wheeler looked so bad against the Marlins. I don't know what was going on with him.
So that's a good point. So he said after the game, he's not hurt. He feels fine. It's just a matter of, he said, look, shortened spring training, it takes me time to ramp up my fastball, and I'm not there yet. I haven't had the time to face live batters because I don't know if you remember, but he came back. He had his first start in spring pushback because he had a little bit of arm soreness. He cleared that up. He's good, but then he gets the flu. And they say to him, you know, don't come to camp. We don't want you to give other people the flu, understandably. He missed 2 starts from that, and now he's incredibly behind. And this is a Phillies team that's leaning on him to hopefully give up no more than 2 runs because they can't score any more than 2 runs.
Yeah, and back to the Phillies offense, though, with that, I really don't think that these struggles will continue. I think that if Zach Wheeler can, you know, if he can give up 3-4 runs, I think that the Phillies should be able to position themselves to win some games. But overall, though, I mean, yeah, this is definitely not good for the Phillies, but I wouldn't push the panic button quite yet.
No.
If it's the middle of May where it starts to get warmer and teams like the Yankees and the Phillies are not hitting the ball well, then yeah, I do think you have a reason to be concerned. However, at the moment, I don't think that we should panic, but Joe Girardi and Aaron Boone really need to stop changing the lineup up, like we said, because I don't think that the players know what to expect going into the game, and that's really tough for them to play.
All right, final point before we let you go here, Robbie. Yankees, who is your leadoff hitter if you're Aaron Boone right now?
So I don't understand why Aaron Boone has really played around with the leadoff spot. He tried Anthony Rizzo at leadoff. Josh Donaldson was a leadoff hitter for a while. When, in my opinion, it's the guy who's been a leadoff hitter for the last 2.5 years, DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah. Why
is DJ LeMahieu not their leadoff hitter? He's been hitting the ball fine right now.
I was hoping you could tell me that.
I don't know. Aaron Hicks has been a good leadoff hitter. He's been leading off, I think, the last 2 or 3 games. And I prefer Hicks to either be the leadoff hitter or the number 9 hitter because Aaron Hicks might be the worst situational hitter I've ever seen in my life. You put bases loaded up with him and nobody out, what's Hicks going to do? He's going to pop out or strike out. What's he going to do with 1 out and the bases loaded? He's going to ground into a double play. He ran us out of so many innings against the Red Sox, against the Orioles, and against the Blue Jays. He did in all those series. So if he's at the leadoff spot, he's not going to do it. But if I'm Aaron Boone, I would actually consider using DJ LeMahieu as the leadoff hitter and then Aaron Hicks as the number 9 hitter. Or you could put Hicks as the number 2 hitter right now because Aaron Judge has looked lost up at the plate. And Anthony Rizzo has looked lost up at the plate. Giancarlo Stanton, since that Red Sox series, he just hasn't been that great. And I'm not too concerned about him because he's always been a streaky hitter. Joey Gallo's been a disaster at the plate. Like I said, he's hitting a $136 right now. I think a $134 after his strikeout in the first inning. So, regardless, it should not be Anthony Rizzo. It should not be Josh Donaldson. It should not be, Aaron Judge, whoever they want to put. Really, it should either be Hicks or LeMahieu. But I would go with LeMahieu for this.
All right. Well, there you have it on who should lead off for the Yankees. And hopefully the struggles for both the Yankees and the Phillies offense do not persist as we continue throughout the season. And just a reminder, if you want to call in, discuss anything baseball-related, that number's 202-319-5106, 202-319-5106. Robbie, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we're gonna have a quick change in the studio here.
All right, peace out, guys. James is joining.
Thanks a lot, Robbie. And, joining us in the booth now, of course, James. James, how are we doing tonight?
Can't complain.
Can't complain. That's good to hear.
A week and a half, 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
Some exciting stuff going on. Some teams that we might not have expected to have winning records. Some teams are struggling out of the gate, and then you have your typical teams who are your cellar dwellers. So.
Yeah, it seems like that's the case. We just talked about the Phillies and the Yankees' offensive struggles. We touched a little bit on Seiya Suzuki and Jose Ramirez, who have been fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But something I want to talk to you about now here is Freddie Freeman, right? So last night was really cool. In case you're not aware, right? Freddie Freeman hits his first home run as a Dodger against the Braves, which is very cool for its own reasons. But I want to talk to you about what happened before the game, right? Because, I might get some hate for this, but I am not over this. And I want to preface this by saying this is coming from a Phillies fan and a guy who hates facing Freddie Freeman. That man should not be wearing a Dodgers jersey. Watching his kid run up to Dansby Swanson last night, give him a hug, say hi to all the coaches, watching him cry, literally cry before the game about thinking about what his reception is going to be when he returns to Atlanta, him saying it's his favorite place in the world. That's just disgusting to me.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we should take into account is, Freddie talking to Matt Olson before the game, going into Brian Snitker's office in the visiting clubhouse, talking with Dansby on the field in batting practice, hugging Ozzie Albies, visiting with as many teammates as he could. Freddie Freeman wanted to be a Brave, and I don't know if many people saw this, but his wife actually on Instagram last night, someone commented on her photo, and she said, "Look, he wanted 6 years. The Braves offered 5. They didn't offer 6, and we weren't." And she even said, even despite that, they in their heads, they weren't leaving Atlanta until the Matt Olson trade.
Yeah.
The Freddie Freeman should not be wearing another uniform except for a Brave uniform. The Braves botched that, and Braves fans shouldn't be mad at him. Like, there's no reason for them to be upset. I think everything with him and Ronald Acuna Jr., the supposed beef, I think some of that literally gets lost in translation. We say that a lot as a metaphor, but I think literally some of this gets lost in translation between Spanish, especially Venezuelan Spanish and English. I think you look at the beef, the so-called beef that people wanted to make between Acuna and Freeman. There are a lot of cultural differences. I mean, of course, Acuna was going to be tighter with your Ozzie Albies, with Eddie Rosario, with Pablo Sandoval when he was there, with Johan Camargo, with the guys who speak Spanish, with the Latin guys, the guys who are closer in age to him and who speak his language. That makes sense. I think anyone in life, when you go to school, when you go to work, you're going to be closer with people who you relate to. And I think when you go back to Acuna talking about Freddie, wiping the eye black off with the towel, not wearing the sunglasses on, covering the A. Those are organizational rules that Freeman was being the clubhouse veteran. It wasn't something that Freddie had against Acuna. And I think at the end of the day, they love each other. Freddie said he loves Acuna, all that sort of stuff. He should be a Brave, but at the end of the day, credit to the Dodgers, and that was poetic justice, seeing him hit a home run in his first at-bat. And I guarantee you he hits a home run in his first game back at Truist Park in June.
Oh, man, you know how great that would be. They'll probably applaud him.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's probably going to be like the Pujols thing.
It will be a standing ovation.
No, I'm saying if he hits a home run, they'll probably still cheer.
Oh, they might, unless it's a go-ahead homer in the ninth inning.
Well, yeah.
But Freeman on the year, he had a slow start after his first 6 games, and he historically is a slow starter in general. Mm-hmm. But right now, after a 4-for-5 game on Sunday and then the home run last night, he is tearing the cover off the ball. He's hitting .325 with an .879 OPS, and his first, his first home run as a Dodger coming against the Braves. I think that's crazy that he waited 10 games and finally his first one was against the Braves, not just any home run. But he's showing them why they should have kept him, and this isn't a knock on Matt Olson, but Freddie Freeman should be a Brave forever.
Yeah, and that's the argument I keep hearing is, okay, yeah, but the Braves did a great job replacing him. Of course they did, but at some point you have to go beyond the business side of it and realize that it's not just about, you're replacing him with a younger player who's going to be better for more years. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. To me, like I said, seeing his son run up to Dansby Swanson and hug him and just realize that this man is no longer literally in his home was just sad to see. And again, coming from a Phillies fan who hated every second of him facing us because he's one of the best players in baseball.
Yeah, and I think another thing that you think about with Freddie is not only the on-field talent that he brings and the presence he brings on the field, but also the clubhouse leadership, the presence. And another thing that I know we haven't touched on the so-called beef with Acuna. I'm not looking too much into it, but if Freddie Freeman was that bad of a teammate, the guys wouldn't have been advocating to re-sign him, and you would have heard so many guys trash him once he had officially signed. So this isn't something that people need to actually worry about, that he's a bad guy who hates their best player, because that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah, a couple news items, by the way, on the Braves front today. Some good news, and I guess some other good news, depending on how you look at it if you're a Braves fan. Firstly, a little bit of not really a surprise at this point considering how he's done, but a surprise based on his name, and that's Sean Newcomb being DFA'd today.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Newcomb, a guy who in 2018 was almost an all-star, had an ERA below 3.5, a lefty who's always had crafty stuff. He at certain times he's shown the velocity, he's shown the command, he's shown the presence to be a legit major league starter, not just a 4 or 5, but a legit 2 or 3 arm in the rotation. And it's something that, I think last night was the last straw and he imploded against the Dodgers, but a team should pick him up. Watch him go to Tampa or watch him go to the Dodgers. Watch him go somewhere analytically smart. Somewhere like that will turn him around. He'll go somewhere. He'll latch on with a contender. Even if it's not a contender, even if it's some team like Texas who needs pitching, he'll latch on somewhere. He's too talented not to. Yes, he has a 7 ERA, but we're 10 games into the season, and I think he's appeared in 3 games. He was a guy who at his peak was a borderline all-star. He's someone who's valuable for a team. Even if you turn him into a 1 to 3 inning reliever guy, depending on the situation, that stuff out of the bullpen can't be understated.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to clear waivers. I would like to think a team's going to grab him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if he does, he's a reclamation project for Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Give him some time down in AAA. And
yeah, but no, he'll latch on somewhere. He has to. He's too talented not for a team not to take a chance on him. And if a team takes a chance on him and he doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. No risk, no foul. But you might as well take a chance on him if you can.
Yeah, other news out of Atlanta, of course, another guy who was sent down to AAA. He had options left, so he was not DFA'd.
Yeah, and
bad start last night.
Yeah, that Dodgers lineup will make anyone look bad. But Cody Ballinger hitting the ball well. He had a big home run last night. Gavin Lux is hitting .345 to start off this season, finally getting everyday at bats. But I think what will be fine. Obviously, he was pitching great last year until he broke his hand. And then even when he came back, he was pitching well. But that Atlanta rotation, they have some depth issues. They need Kyle Wright to finally lock in and figure something out. And he's looked good to start the season, but they need that over a full season. Mike Soroka is going to come back early summer. They need guys to step up and provide that depth, because don't look now, but the Mets aren't going away anytime soon. Another big win today. I don't know if you saw, but when I was coming home, Francisco Lindor with the walk-off. That's going to be a battle, and the Phillies are going to pick it up. Those 3 teams are going to be in it for the long haul. The Braves are going to need starting pitching depth if they're going to want to compete in the division.
Yes, without question. And then the final piece of news out of Atlanta, of course, is Ronald Acuna Jr. officially starting his rehab assignment down in their AAA facility, something I think a lot of Braves fans are very happy to see.
Yeah, and once they get Acuna back, it's going to be smooth sailing, especially at the top of the order. He'll lengthen it out with Olsen. They get one of the best, 5 or 6 players in the game back. He provides spark and energy to that team, and it's, last year, all the acquisitions to the trade deadline were spark. We'll see what their record is when Acuna comes back. He could be the spark that they need this year. And, we treat guys who start the year on the IL like a trade acquisition. He will be the biggest trade acquisition in baseball by far when he comes back.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that comeback's not that far away. No, early May is the timetable.
I think it'll be between May 5th and May 10th, somewhere around that. Get him 2 weeks to get under his legs. He'll probably get a day. He'll probably go every other day for the first week, and then
DH a little bit.
Yep, DH start going, and he'll probably DH when he comes back a little bit too.
Yeah,
and then start getting his legs under him, start stealing bags, and he'll be just fine.
Yeah, too talented not to be fine. I mean, and then like you said, you add that to a lineup that already has ridiculous amounts of talent in. I mean, it looks like Ozuna's been swinging it pretty good.
Marcell Ozuna's been red hot to start the year. That's a huge addition to that lineup that I think many people forgot about.
Yeah, I mean, he's back. He's swinging it good. Of course, you have Matt Olson, who, he's gotten off to an okay start. Obviously, he's going to pick it up eventually. Very talented baseball player. Another guy to watch, though, I mean, Dansby Swanson looking pretty lost at the plate now, but he's a guy that eventually is going to pick it up as well. I mean,
well, he should, and he's always been a good defender, but I think the big thing with Dansby is that he's never reached that offensive ceiling, that offensive potential. And it really is unfortunate. I mean, he was the number one. I think, personally, I think if he never got traded from Arizona, I think he would have found it there. He found it for the first half of 2019, and that was really it.
Yeah, speaking of shortstops, I got to remember now with Sean Newcomb, I mean, that was the Andrelton Simmons trade with the Los Angeles Angels, and, Simmons went on to, he had some pretty good years there in L.A.
Absolutely,
I don't know who's the winner of that trade now. Outside of 2018, Newcomb has not really put it together.
Yeah, I mean, Shelby Miller was a bust for Arizona.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone won that trade.
Yeah, another one. That's true. I mean, Shelby Miller, correct me if I'm wrong, was with the Pirates last year and is out of the league now. Yeah. Oh, the Yankees signed him to a minor league deal, but he didn't make the team. That's what it was, so. Yeah, Atlanta, like you said, they're going to have some depth issues with that rotation. They got to get some guys to step up there, keep up with the Mets, who have been red hot. At this point, not keep up, but stay at the same level of the Phillies. Both been playing around that same kind of level, 2-3 games under 500, both off the slow starts there, offensively and with the pitching. But yeah, the NL East so far, and like you said, another big win today has pretty much been the Mets. I mean,
can I talk about one guy in the NL East who's back?
Yeah, of course.
Francisco Lindor, big walk off today, but he had 2 home runs on Friday, 1 from each side of the plate. He's got 3 home runs this year. He's hitting .273, so it's like on the surface, people might not think he's back. His OPS is .1048. He's getting on base at a .442 clip. He's taking his walks. He's already got a .7 WAR in 11 games or 10 games. Excuse me. He missed 1 game after getting hit in the face. Defensively, he looks like his normal self, bringing spark in the field. And I know people want to say his DRS is -1. We're 10 games into the season. That will change, people. But he has got an OPS plus of 197, which again won't last. But Francisco Lindor last year, he didn't get above 200 until I think May 1st.
He was bad.
He was. Hey, look, the pressure of the $341 million contract was clearly getting to him. And last year he finished at 230. This year, he looks like a $300 million player. He looks like one of the best players in the game. He looks like the true 5-tool guy who, was a star with the Indians for so long. And this is a guy who doesn't have an issue with being in a big market such as New York, and he's embracing it right now. And this is someone who the Mets need if they are going to be successful all season long. And so far, he's answered the bell. And good for Lindor. Good for Lindor. And the fans seem to be back on his side.
Yeah, that's going to be a key piece for them, like you said. If they're going to actually go ahead and win this division, finally live up to the offseason hype, it seems like the past 2 years that they've been trying to live up to, and it's going to be in big part to Francisco Lindor rebounding and being the superstar player that he was with Cleveland.
Yeah. And I think another thing for the Mets is their rotation ERA without Jacob deGrom. It's below 2. I want to say it's 1.71. 167, something like that.
Yeah, dare I say that McGill,
Tyler,
right?
Tyler McGill, yeah,
kind of looks like a mini Jacob deGrom right now. I'm not gonna lie, that man is looking absolutely filthy on the mound.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he started opening day for the Mets, and I'm sure a lot of people wondered why. Well, it's only been 2 starts, sure, and he pitched well again today, so 3 starts, but. The early returns on him have been very promising, and you throw in a healthy Jacob deGrom to this rotation because after you have Scherzer in there who's pitched well through 2 starts. Carlos Carrasco pitched well in 2 starts. Chris Bassett has only given up 1 run in I think 17 innings. Yeah. And then who am I forgetting as their 5th starter? Taijuan Walker. He left hurt.
He's hurt though. Yeah.
Even still, those 4 starters. I mean, that's an incredible rotation. And if Lindor keeps leading the offense like he is, I mean, look out.
Yes. Have to agree. I mean, like I said. I mean, I hate to look back the past 2 years, but this is something the Mets have seemed to be making a habit of. Right, start off the season red hot. Will they hang on to it? I mean, it took a little bit longer in 2000. I want to say it was 18 or 19, but 21. I mean, as soon as they hit the middle of July, this team just absolutely collapsed and never recovered.
Right.
I mean, if you're the Mets, you got to hope that that's not going to be the case this year.
And I think 2 reasons why it won't be. I know it's his second year and he doesn't have as big of an impact, but still, Steve Cohen is getting the right guys in there. And I think the biggest reason why a guy who he got in, Buck Showalter. Yeah. Buck Showalter knows how to manage a team. Yes, he's never won a World Series, sure, but like he knows how to navigate the peaks and valleys of a season. If the team begins to crater and goes on a 4-game losing streak, he won't let that spiral to 8 or 9. He'll keep it at 4. They'll stop it. He won't let the season spiral out of control because of one clubhouse incident that, with the Wilpons would get leaked to the press and would be on the front page of the New York Post the next day. Buck Showalter knows how to manage that clubhouse, and I think Francisco Lindor stepping up as they need a leader, and Francisco Lindor stepping up as that clubhouse leader, which he was in Cleveland, is going to be huge for them. And I think that those 2 guys, Lindor and Showalter and Steve Cohen, getting the right guys in there is going to be huge for the Mets. We'll see if they can hold on. They've gotten off to hot starts before, and they've crashed in the past. But you can't underestimate the talent on this team. And I think that with Buck Showalter in there, that was the missing ingredient that will get them off to the right foot the entire year.
Yeah, you have the Mets starting out fantastic. You have the Braves and Phillies starting off very poorly. And you got to imagine that at some point, all 3 of those teams are going to come to a place where they're somewhat even. I mean,
absolutely,
in terms of skill, yeah.
Yeah, and again, the way I think about all this is, sure, like 11 games, it's not, a small sample size per se, but it's, not huge. If this was the middle of August and the Phillies were going through a 4-7 stretch, people would say turn it around quickly, but we know that's not the team they are. We'll see how they go over the next 10 or 20 and then make judgments. Make judgments at the end of April. Let the weather warm up. Let guys, get 4 or 5 starts. Let guys get, 70 at-bats under their belt and then see what you really are. We can't make too many snap judgments right now because nobody separated themselves from the pack in any division, really. I mean, you look up and down, it's just a couple games between the first and second place team.
Yeah. I mean, you have, I think it's 3 8-game winners with the Giants, Dodgers, and Mets.
Yeah, the Mets are 8-3. The Giants are 7-3.
7. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's be real. The Giants are playing the Mets right now, so there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
The Rockies are off to a hot start. I think that's the most surprising team this year.
Yeah, that's
in the National League. In the National League.
Yeah, that's actually what I was gonna talk about next year. Is not only are they off to a hot start, but they actually made a move today. They went ahead and extended.
Oh yes, they
did. Lefty Kyle Freeland, the Colorado native Kyle Freeland, to a 5-year, $64.5 million deal. James, thoughts on this deal? Because I just want to say that he's not exactly looking too great.
Freeland is a Colorado kid, but he has not been anywhere near good since 2018, 2019. And I understand Colorado inflates numbers, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to look at his home road splits, whatever. But, a lot of the peripherals do not support giving Kyle Freeland this kind of money. He's not a bad pitcher. He's not bad per se. It's not like you just threw it at some scrub. But this year, right now, he's 0-2 with a 10 ERA. And again, it's 2 bad starts. But you look at the rest of the history of Kyle Freeland. He had a 2.85 ERA in 2018. Tremendous. But in 2019, he had a 6.73 ERA. In 2020, he had a 4.33 ERA in the COVID-19 shortened season. And then in 2021, he had a 4.33 ERA. This year, he has a 10 ERA. He's pitched over 100 innings in every season that he's pitched in, except for 2020, the shortened season. And you look at his FIP. That is a huge indicator to me.
Yeah.
In 2018, his FIP was 3.7 with a 2.85 ERA, so that would indicate he was worse than his ERA. In 2019, he had a 6.73 ERA, and he had a 5.99 FIP, so a little bit better than the ERA, but those two numbers are still staggeringly high. It's not like, because you have some cases where a guy's ERA is 4.05 and then his FIP is like 2.12, and that FIP takes all the good or bad luck out of it and really just tells you the true value of what a pitcher is. Freeland's FIP in 2020 was 4.63, and his FIP last year was 4.63. His FIP so far to start this year is 4.99. So obviously much better than his 10 ERA, but it's $64 million is a lot of money.
Here's my thing, James. I've asked you this on this show before. What are the Rockies doing? I don't get it. I just do not get it.
I don't know
Chris
why.
Chris Bryant. We had all the John Gray and Trevor Story stuff, and now we have this out of nowhere.
I don't like you trade Nolan Arenado to then sign Chris Bryant a year and a half later. Like I'm not knocking Chris Bryant. He deserved to get the contract that he's gotten, and he's hitting 343 to start the year, and he has an 832 OPS. This isn't a knock on KB, but why would you trade Nolan Arenado? And then why would you let Trevor Story go for nothing? Why wouldn't you trade him or build around Arenado and Story and sign him to an extension? Look, I'm happy the Red Sox signed Story, but if you're Colorado, what's the organizational plan here? What's the organizational mission? I'm
going to take a stab at the mission here. Get one guy on the team who can hit really long home runs so people will come to the ballpark sometimes.
Yeah, no, but but they're off to a really good start.
Yeah, they are.
It's not just KB. You look at Connor Joe. Yeah. He had another great game. I know against you guys. He had another great game last night. So far in the year, he's hitting 359 with 2 home runs and only 4 RBIs, but his OPS is 1109. And he's come up with 2 clutch home runs. Both of his home runs have been clutch. One against the Dodgers, a game-winning home run in the 8th, and then a game-winning home run in extra innings against the Rangers in their home opener. He's been tremendous for them. So it's like you look up at Ryan McMahon. They inked him to a 6-year, $70 million deal.
It was a good extension.
Good extension, good player.
Yeah.
And he's off to a good start too, but it's like, why not keep Nolan Arenado?
It's a really good question. I wish I had an answer to that. The other one that was just the biggest why to me was when they didn't even offer John Gray the qualifying offer. And now I know John Gray's hurt right now.
Well, they probably figured John would have taken it, and maybe they didn't want John Gray to come back.
I guess that's what it was, but evidently there was other teams that were going to give him more money.
Right.
They could have got a draft pick out of it.
And I think that's the reason why they didn't trade Story. They valued the draft pick more than whatever they would have gotten back for him in the summer because they offered him a QO, he didn't take it.
Yeah. That very well could be it.
Which is a fair argument for not trading Story, but for not even offering John Gray the qualifying offer, that doesn't make too much sense.
No, it doesn't really make any sense at all. Not sure what the organizational plan is in Colorado, but like James said, they're off to a great start. I believe 7-3 at this point.
Yeah, 7-3. They're playing well, and that's a tough division. It's a tough division. So to go 7-3 at any point during the season, especially taking 2 or 3 from the Dodgers, that's tremendous. Whether it's in April, whether it's in August, whether it's in June, whenever it may be, that's a good start. And it's a tough division with the Dodgers and the Giants, but there's always a third team that emerges as a surprise. Whether last year it was the Giants when we all expected it to be the Padres. Will it be the Padres this year? Will it be Colorado? Arizona doesn't look too hot right now. They look to be cellar dwellers, unfortunately for them this year, sitting at 3-7, already 5 games back of the first place Dodgers. But you think about who that third team will be, whether it will be the Padres, whether it will be the Rockies. The Rockies have given us an indication that it could be them if they somehow pitch. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, obviously pitching is going to be the biggest thing with them. It always is the biggest thing with them.
It always is.
I just can't see this team staying on this sort of pace the entire year.
No. It'll be the Padres. The Dodgers and the Giants are both too good, and the Padres have too much talent to finish below 500 again this season.
Yeah, without question.
And I think another team that I want to touch on, I wasn't sure if you wanted to touch on them, the Oakland Athletics. I know they're only 6-5, but you look up and down that roster, they don't have much talent.
No. They don't have any talent.
Sean Murphy. Hey. Let's
Christian Pache's. He's been all right.
With first home run on Saturday, ahead home run. But you look at those 2 guys. That's it.
Literally it. Well, funny. It's actually funny you mentioned that. I was just bringing up a tweet I saw here. Was someone? I don't know if you saw this. Someone tweeted at Christian Pache because he said, "Oh, I'm so excited for the home opener tonight." Did you see this, James?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm so excited for the home opener tonight, and I can't wait to see all the fans. It's going to be great to be in Oakland. And someone tweeted him and said, "Yeah, there's going to be 2,000 fans there to support you." And Christian Pache responds with like this most heartwarming
Christian Pache.
Ever.
He's a great follow on Twitter because he has a great attitude about everything.
He's funny. He goes. Remember that the important thing is quality, not quantity. Even if it's one fan who attends the game tonight, I will play very hard for that one fan to go home happy.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah, I know he's only hitting 243 right now, but he was one of the Braves' top prospects. Defensively, he was compared to Andrew Jones when he was in the Braves system.
That's right, yeah.
I think it's only a matter of time before he gets going. And again, I don't expect the A's to be 500 this year. I really don't. I mean, the Angels at some point will pass them. Seattle, Jesse Winker's off to a dreadful start at the plate. Julio Rodriguez has already struck out 11 times. Now, granted, I did watch a video on Julio Rodriguez Rodriguez.
I saw that one too.
6 out of 11 of those. He struck out looking 11 times. At least 6 of those were balls out of the zone, legitimate balls. They weren't strikes. Julio Rodriguez and Jesse Winker will get going at some point. Jared Kelenic will get going. He's too good not to. They will be fine. The Angels hopefully get going hopefully Rendon gets going. Trout and Ohtani, obviously. Ever since Ohtani gave CPR to his bat, he's been the best hitter on the planet per usual. I mean, what's new with that? But, Noah Syndergaard's looked great through 2 starts. Going back to the AL West, how about Corey Seager getting the Barry Bonds treatment this weekend?
Yeah, so we talked about that earlier in the show, and James, maybe you know the answer to this question because I asked Robbie this and we couldn't remember exactly, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, the last time that happened, which was Josh Hamilton, was Joe Maddon not also the manager who did that?
It was the last time it happened when the team was losing. It wasn't the last time it happened, but it was the last 2 times that the team who was losing did the intentional walk with the bases loaded. Joe Maddon was the manager.
Wait, no, that was the last time a player was potentially walked the bases loaded.
Was it
not?
It might have been. I might have been thinking there was a college game recently. There was a college game, I think, 2 years ago.
I'm not talking
No,
college.
I know. I think I was.
Oh, you're thinking about
that.
that. Okay, yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that the only 2 documented in baseball history on camera are Barry Bonds and Josh Hamilton. I'm almost certain.
And now Corey Seager.
Yeah, of course. But I thought that was interesting that was Joe Maddon again. And by the way, both times that Joe Maddon did it, and by the way, the time that the Diamondbacks did it against Buck Showalter did it against Barry Bonds, all 3 of those teams won the game.
Yes. And look, Corey Seager's a tremendous hitter. He's off to a hot start. I mean, he's blistering, hitting, I think, 345.
He'd have another home run if it wasn't for Randall Grichuk.
Yeah. He's got 1 home run, maybe 2. He's got at least 1 home run, maybe 2. He's one of the best hitters in the game when he's on, but it's like, dude, just try to get the out. Like, I'm not saying Corey Seager doesn't deserve the treatment. I'm not saying he's not dangerous, but just try to get the out. It's the 4th inning. It's not the 8th inning. It's not whatever.
Yeah, I think Mike Trout's reaction in center field said it all. I mean, the camera caught him kind of like looking around like, what the heck's going on here? I mean, hey, you know what? Power to Joe Maddon. He's done it twice now, and it's worked twice. I mean, they won both games.
But in that inning, the Rangers scored 2 more runs.
They
so
did.
It very well could have backfired. I wouldn't say this one worked. I would think he just got lucky and won the game.
I don't understand that move, honestly. Who was hitting behind him? Was it Semien? Who was behind him? Do you remember?
Yes, I think it was
Semien. I want to
Semien.
say it was Semien. I don't understand that. I just don't. Like, just pitch to him. Like you said, it's the 4th inning. And especially because the other 2 times this is happening, right? You have Josh Hamilton in the year where he hit like 349.
Yeah, 2008.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't when he won the MVP.
It was the year before.
It was 08.
The year before. That was the home run derby year. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you had Barry Bonds, who was Barry Bonds. Like, those ones make a lot more sense. No disrespect to Corey Seager at all, but they made a lot more sense than Corey Seager.
Right. Well, okay, now I know what stat I was confused on. This was the first time since 1881 that the team who intentionally walked the guy with the bases loaded was losing.
Okay.
Every other time it's been documented that the team was winning.
Gotcha. So that was the first time that it happened when the team was behind that did it.
Yes.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And the last time before this, it was Josh Hamilton.
Josh Hamilton, 2008, right?
2008.
Just say Joe Maddon on there?
Yes, it was Joe Maddon.
Because it was Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Well, hey, I don't know if I can fault Joe Maddon on his decision making. I mean, the guy's taken 2 teams to the World Series at this point that probably wouldn't have gotten there otherwise. I would say so.
No,
maybe
absolutely.
he knows something we don't, and it's worked for him.
Sure.
It's worked out for him. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to talk about tonight, James. Is there anything else that maybe you want to touch on that we did in the first half of the show?
There was one guy that I wanted to touch on. I don't remember who it was, but I know Nolan Arenado's off to a red hot start.
Yeah.
Look out, people. Look out. Nolan Arenado is he going to
get his MVP?
Is he going to get that elusive MVP?
He needs it.
MLB tweeted out something today. Is Nolan going to get the elusive MVP?
Yeah,
Watch that jinx him and have him have like a 2 for 19 week. But Nolan Arenado on the year. Oh, now I know who I was going to talk about after Nolan. Nolan Arenado on the year right now is hitting .433, 4 bombs, 12 RBIs, 15-14 OPS.
It's pretty good.
Insane. Is Christian Yelich back? I know he's only hitting .242, but big grand slam last night.
Big grand slam.
Yelich, from what I've watched from him this year, and I've watched him a lot, over the years, his swing looks like it was 2 years ago. Yeah. He's staying more consistent in the zone. The bat path is there in the zone. He's staying firm on his backside. He's not lunging out. He's not leaking out with the back shoulder. And, I know I'm not a professional hitting coach. I know I'm just, some jabroni watching games, whatever. But it's like he looks like the guy who won an MVP and was runner-up in 18 and 19 and one of the most feared hitters in the game. And if the Brewers get that guy back, look out.
Look out. Look out indeed. I mean, that would be such a tremendous add to a Brewers team that has really been lacking offense start this year. I mean, McCutchen not off to a great start. Renfroe off to a dreadful start.
Last year, Renfroe was hitting 154 through May 1st. I'm not too worried about it.
So
like, I know
start.
people are jumping to conclusions, but it's like, dude, when the weather's cold outside, a guy like Renfroe's not going to hit well. But once the weather gets warm, he will start hitting.
Well, I mean, they play inside anyways. So.
I know, but I'm saying that division, it's like that. You know, they went to Baltimore. It was cold down here last week. They went to Chicago. They opened up in Chicago. It's like they played in a few cold weather places already. But, you know, if they get Christian Yelich back, which I think they will, he was all of our predictions to win comeback player of the year. That is going to be a major add to this team, and he's starting to look like the guy who won an MVP.
How great would it be for baseball if not only we get him back, but also Cody Ballinger showing some signs of life as well? Yeah,
a big home run last night. I think it was his second of the year. Might have been his third. But, you know, he's hitting 7th or 8th in that order. If he can be any form of his former self, that would be massive. He's hitting 278 right now with an 866 OPS.
He doesn't even have to be his MVP self. If he hits 270 with 20 home runs, that's massive for this Dodgers team.
Yeah, if he's a quarter of what he was in 19, that's huge that would be huge on any team, let alone this Dodgers team that's absolutely loaded.
Especially because, I mean, at this point, what's he making arbitration, like $10 million, right? $16 million, yes. Oh, man. You got to hope you can at least get something out of him. I mean, I know we talked about how clueless he looked in spring training, but hey, you know, if, like James said, if he is a quarter of what he was in 2018, then that's going to be a Dodgers team that is going to get.
And look,
better.
He's a damn good ball player because he's a Gold Glover.
Yeah,
he plays Gold Glove defense. If he can hit the ball, look out, because that Dodgers team is scary.
Yes, absolutely it is, and I think they proved that last night against the defending world champions. And probably will do so throughout the year. I don't think that's a bold prediction.
Did we talk? I'm sure you guys touched on Roberts pulling Kershaw.
We did not, actually. You know, let's quickly talk about that. So in case you're not aware, right, Clayton Kershaw, perfect game through 7 innings. And Dave Roberts decides, you know what, no, it's time to take him out. You know, they won the game. The perfect game was not upheld. But something I want to ask you, James, right? Clayton Kershaw's comments after the game.
Yeah, he said it was the right move.
He said it was the right move, but he said something else. He said, don't blame Dave Roberts. He said, blame the CBA. Blame there being a lockout for the fact that I didn't finish it today.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
No.
I don't either.
No, if he had said blame I think he was trying to say that he didn't have enough time to build off of because of his injuries last year, the injuries that he suffered in the offseason. The Dodgers couldn't track his progress for those 3 months. But at the end of the day, it's a perfect game, and the blame solely falls on Roberts. You know, Kershaw already has a no-hitter, and the only base running he allowed was on a Hanley Ramirez error, and it was graded as one of the best games in Major League Baseball history in terms of like a game score. I don't remember what the exact number was, but Kershaw has one of the best game scores in MLB history. This was in 2014, his no-hitter against the Colorado Rockies. But it's a perfect game. There's only been 23 in MLB history, and there's been, over 7,500 games?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me because, like you said,
let Kershaw go for history.
Let him go for history, and again, it's not like this is some crucial game. Like, of course, every game is crucial, but this is the Dodgers. They're gonna win 100 games,
and it's April.
It's April.
Like, I understand Dave Roberts saying we need him for October. We need him to be healthy. Well, you could right at this point in the season, you could afford to give him an extra day or two in the rotation and bump another guy up.
I personally, and I don't want to sound like an old man here, but that is very emblematic of a larger problem in baseball right now. The fact that man, one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history, had a perfect game going, and he was taken out.
Only 80 pitches.
Yeah,
only 80 pitches. And look, analytics has its place in the game. It's great, but at the end of the day, we have to have human feel, and we have to use our eyes.
It's crazy to me that actually happened to us this week, but lo and behold, it did, and they did end up winning that game, but no perfect game yet, at least for Clayton Kershaw. Really, if you think about it, one of the only things he's missing on his resume at this point.
The only thing.
He's done everything else, including that World Series in 2020. I mean, nevertheless, a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, but, you know, that would have been pretty cool to see, and unfortunately it didn't happen. Maybe we will see it later on this season, hopefully. Yeah. But besides that, that's about all we have for you tonight here on Nation's Pastime and the Nation's Capital. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be live again next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on WCUA Radio. As a reminder, go ahead, follow us on Instagram for show updates at @PastimeCap. You'll get all the updates there when we post our shows in podcast form, all that good stuff. And other than that, we'll catch you next week. Enjoy another fantastic week of baseball. Have a good night.